Today I'm in Harnett County, North Carolina for a tour with Desi Campbell, a dedicated researcher, storyteller, and longtime voice in the genealogy community. Desi has spoken at numerous conferences across the country and published multiple books that help families connect the dots and reclaim what time tried to erase. In this episode, we're taking a slower road through small-town America, digging into genealogy, church history, education, and those everyday tidbits that rarely make the headlines, but shape generations all the same. So sit back, relax, let's take it slow in Harnett County, North Carolina, and see what we uncover. All right, so Desi, we are here, of course, in Harnett County, which you champion so much, all on your Facebook page. Everywhere we've been, you throwing Harnett County out, man, and I love that. I love that. Give us the lay of the land as it relates to this community, as well as some of your own personal family history connections.
Well, my family history is connection to all of Harnett County, but especially in this area, because in the late 1700s, early 1800s is actually where my ancestors were on plantation, all from this part right here, all the way back to Lee and Moore County. The McNeil plantation, the McLeans, the Harringtons, the McDougals. There were several plantations they were on, and I actually have the documents with their names on it.
Right.
So we are heavily, and we're heavily in this community at one time. Few of us still live here, but a lot of them have ventured off into other parts of Harnett County, of course, other places as well, up north and down south.
What are some of the cities, or towns rather, in Harnett County?
Okay, so there's Lillington, which is where I live.
Yep.
There is Coates, there is Irwin, there is Anger, and then there's Dunn.
Okay. Now, Dunn is where I recently did that research where the indigenous folks.
Yes.
Were.
So there was a lot of them over there.
Yeah, protesting the segregation of the school or what have you. Is there still a population of indigenous folks that are there? Okay.
There's a lot of them over
there.
there.
Is that Cohary?
Cohary.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandmother actually lived in Cohary.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, got you. And we are now entering Lillington town limit.
Yes,
right
sir.
there. Or what have you. I see there's also a lot of development that's happening over here as well. There's houses on this side and houses on the other side as well. What are your thoughts about that? Is there any fear as it relates to just the history?
This is where I work at. That's where
that's where you work at. Okay. But what are your fears about development that's coming in?
Well, they're building houses all up and down my road, all these major roads, up and down 210. And 421. However, all the houses are great, but they're not building any kind of restaurants or stores.
Okay.
None of that is coming. Well, we don't see it coming. So I think that's very important when you're having all these people moving in. There's this is a military town. I mean, Fort Bragg is right up the street.
Right.
So I think they need to have a little bit more variety of stuff for people to eat and the people to shop.
Yeah, especially if you're going to have more people coming in, right?
A lot of people here.
Yeah. As it relates to you growing up as a child, what are some of the most fondest memories that you have? Like, were you jumping on the bikes, running? Were you creek stomping?
I actually didn't grow up here.
Okay.
So where
am I going?
We're going straight across.
All right, cool.
I grew up in D.C.
Okay.
But my parents grew up here. And what was interesting was my parents would send us to North Carolina on the summer. And we would go to a little place called Bun Level. We're going to turn right.
Okay.
So we would go to Bun Level for half the summer.
Is Bun Level a town?
Or
a community?
It's a little town, but they have a post office, so.
Okay.
But it's a little township.
Okay, gotcha.
And which is where a lot of my family stay at.
Okay.
On my dad's side. So we would come half the summer. We would spend at my grandmother's house over in Sampson County. And then the other half we would spend over here with my Aunt Margaret over in Bun Level. And we would pick cucumbers and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't too keen on that, but
coming from the city, right?
But it was what it was. Well, she probably saw my text, hopefully. All right, so she'll be on her way. I'm sure she live right here in the community.
Cool. So we are at our first location, which is a school that has been in this community for a very long time.
So Shawtown School I'm not sure when it was established. We're thinking it may have been established in the early 1900s, but they got Rosenwald funding in 23, 24, and 26 and 27. And this whole complex was Rosenwald schools.
Oh, really?
So this is all that's left of it.
Okay.
This building, and I believe that building right there. So the Shawtown Alumni Association, they are now, this is their building.
Okay.
There's a lot of artifacts in there from the school. That building that they're building, that's going to be their new community center.
Okay.
They're fundraising to help get that going. And most of the people from Lillington went to Shawtown. And maybe some people from, I don't think no people from Irwin. Probably just Lillington, as far as I know, went to Shawtown.
Okay.
And I think the last class was 68.
Now, was Shawtown, is that named after a person whose surname was Shaw?
Well, no, from what I'm not really sure exactly. I've heard several stories. One story I heard is because a lot of the teachers went here were from Shaw University.
Oh.
But I don't know how true that is.
Right,
That's just
right.
what we were told. I'm not really sure why it's called Shawtown, but this whole community is Shawtown community.
Okay. And so earlier, you all, while we were driving, we pulled up I didn't make the right turn. I'm just going to be honest. I made a bad turn. But the turn that I needed to make, that I made, it turned us into a funeral home.
Walker Funeral
And I
Home.
said, it turned us into Walker Funeral Home. And I said, hey, we ain't staying. We're just pulling up so we can turn around. But that leads to another segment that you're going to see in this, and that is Desi's work with obituaries and research from a genealogy standpoint. So obviously funeral homes are important for you as it relates to your work. How did you become so affectionate as it relates to that piece in your genealogy research?
Well, while doing research, I felt that that information was important, and so I started just researching my family. But then people started giving me obituaries, and so I ended up with a book of about maybe 100 or 200 obituaries, and that was probably maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and so I started, I was like, this is information that people, can use for genealogy research.
For sure.
So I kept messing with it, and people would call me and say, I got some obituaries for you. Or people would actually leave obituaries on my door.
So they ain't dropping off babies, they dropping off obituaries. The doors of the school is now open, so we're gonna make our way on up in here. Shout out to the Shawtown High School alumni, 1934 to 1968. Go Tigers, go. Come on in here.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Got the alarm going off.
These are just old pictures from different people from the yearbooks. So, online, there are a lot of yearbooks online, but they have a lot of yearbooks here. So they just been making these big old pictures. A lot of people that don't know, unless I look at the name, like I may know some of these Arnolds, and Ruth, I know her, or knew her name, because these are some of my cousins. Cousin. Yeah, everybody's cousin.
This is Miss Shawtown right here.
This is Miss Shawtown, and this is Miss Evelyn.
Is that McKee?
McCoy. Yeah, I'm not sure who that is, but that's most likely some relative with that last name. And last name Murchison, most likely a relative of mine as well. Okay. Class of 65.
So there's a lot of Scottish.
Oh yeah, because this was a Scottish,
right?
Yeah. McLean, McNeil, McDougal, a lot of Macs.
Yeah.
Settled right here on the Cape Fear River.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of just changed the landscape as it relates to, obviously surnames. Because everywhere you go in this specific area, what I have come to find out after doing some research and going to historical sites is that there's McNeils from here all the way to Robeson County. And so how difficult is that as it relates to your genealogy research to get it correct?
The interesting thing about it is, so when you say Robeson County, Cumberland County, Robeson County, Cumberland County, and Harnett County. Harnett County was carved out of Cumberland County in 1855. However, we have so many connections to Robeson County, some of the McNeils and McLeans, because those enslavers, from what I understand, a lot of them settled in Robeson County. Some of their, like the siblings of some of the enslavers that settled here. And they had the slaves with them. So now we have a whole connection of people that we don't have any idea how they're connected. We just know that they're connected.
Gotcha.
And some of them are McNeils, some of them are McLeans, some of them are other names that we don't even know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here goes some more pictures. I can tell you about one of these pictures.
All right.
This is Mr. W.M. Porter. He was a very influential man in Harnett County. He was actually married to my cousin, Ethel, I think her name was Ethel Gilmore. And I didn't know her. She died before I was born, or before I came around. However, he was the principal here at Shawtown.
Okay.
And he did a lot of stuff politically in that county as well. I met him at a family reunion, probably in the 90s, and they kept saying, he kept coming, but I didn't know who he was.
Right.
So finally, somebody told me who he was.
Yeah.
Now this is my uncle. This
Okay.
is my grandfather's brother, David Campbell.
David Campbell.
Yeah.
The lights, y'all may not be able to see very well because of the light.
But I have a picture of him.
Okay, cool. If you don't mind shooting me that. That'd be
He,
great. So what do you remember about him?
I did not know
Didn't
him
get
at
you-
all.
Okay.
I knew of him, but I know his children.
Okay.
But I didn't know of him at all.
So how does it feel being in a space to where you do have family ties? Because a lot of people can't go to those places from a historical standpoint, right? So for you, how does it feel to be in a space to where you can come and actually retrace the footsteps of your ancestors?
Well, I think it's remarkable, and a lot of people, can't do what we've done. We can't make the connections with our people, but the actual come here to Harnett County, or even in North Carolina, the records here are wonderful.
Yeah.
The records are here wonderful in North Carolina. So I was able to trace a lot of stuff. It makes me feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to be able to trace back my family and see the names all the way back to 1794.
Wow.
We can actually see their names in a wheel.
Wow.
Yeah,
1794.
1794, yes, sir.
My God. And what was the name of that person?
Jeannie McLean. Jeannie McLean and some of her siblings, they were sold or passed down from John Sober McLean to his daughter Ann Clark.
Golly.
Yeah.
And here are some of the queens, homecoming queens, it looks like.
Yes.
Yep, that's what's up.
He rated them. Now, I don't know her, but she's a DNA match to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
McDougal. You see these right here, y'all? There's Miss Shawtown Sr., Joyce McDougal. There's Miss Junior, Brenda McCoy. And then there's May Queen, I can't see the name.
Hattie James.
Okay, Hattie James. Okay, yep, Hattie James right there. And then there's Carolyn Ragland. Yeah. A lot of communities don't even have this, right? And
No, we don't.
Because a lot of folks, I feel, have, they have the stuff, whether it's in basements or
Yeah,
attics
that's why I
and
go to
things
the
like
house.
that. Yeah, going to the house. But here, it's like a sanctuary of photography,
Yes.
a moment in time that individuals are able to kind of look back and
Yes, sir.
kind of appreciate the style and just, how exquisitive a lot of these people look. When you look at just the landscape of how they dressed, how their hair was,
Yes.
and things like that back then, fast forwarding it to now, like how does the different generations and how they're represented, how does that land for you?
Well, the difference, it's a big difference, based on, because I'm a school teacher, and based on the students, you can tell that these students are dressed very well.
Yeah.
And they took pride in their dress. I'm not saying that the kids don't take pride in their dress now,
just different.
but it's just very different, very different. Even, with the teachers, it's very casual.
Yeah.
Very, very casual. And I can remember when I went to school, our teacher had on, it was always a woman.
Yeah.
Very seldom had a male teacher. However, they walked very dressed.
Yeah.
They had on the heels, the stockings, and the dress.
Yeah.
But now it's completely different.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to have sports when we're talking about school.
Oh,
so there's
yes.
some trophies right there, you all. Basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball.
And that's again Mr. W.M. Porter right there again.
Okay, there's Mr. Porter again. He looks like a very
He was somebody to
empowered
know.
man.
He was somebody to know.
Does he have any relatives still around?
He actually was not from here.
Okay.
He just moved here. I think he went to Shaw University.
Okay.
And he ended up marrying my cousin and then ended up down here.
Okay, I got you. And so this right here is the wall of the athletes, you all.
Yes, sir.
And so, it's Black History Month, and there's a lot of opportunities and places that individuals can actually go to learn Black history. It doesn't always have to be your major museums. It could be something just like this that preserves the history locally. And I'm a big proponent of individuals being able to learn. I wish that through K through 12 that there was a course solely or a semester solely dedicated to local history,
yes.
right?
Now,
Nothing else but
Florida
local.
is doing that.
Florida is.
Florida is doing.
So they're doing something right.
Well, no, it's not them.
Okay.
It's a group out of Florida.
Okay.
I just heard this yesterday. That is actually the students decided that they want to learn.
I did see that.
Yeah.
And on Saturdays they go there.
On Saturdays they go. Yeah. To me, that's remarkable.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is remarkable. But I believe that. I really believe that every community in this country, there should be a course in the local history for every student to take, because now they have agency in that, because they may know some of the names, some of the places, etc. And so that may make it to where they become history lovers, right?
Yes.
And they feel like they're part of the narrative. But if we don't do such, if we don't have some of our own local history in these places, then I'm just not quite sure that we'll get that.
Yeah, we're gonna try to capture it. That's why I do what I do.
Absolutely.
That's why I do what I do.
And you see the tiger in the cage, y'all. He ain't gonna jump out and hurt nobody. If that thing start moving, then I may fall out of a heart attack right here, right now. So, but this is the Shawtown High School, y'all. I just wanted to show this to you all. And you said it was Rosenwald School?
It was Rosenwald School, yeah. It was funded 23, 24, 26, 27.
26, 27.
Yes.
All right. Good stuff. We ready to head to the next spot?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
All right, so this is Littleton Star Church Cemetery. There's actually two cemeteries. That cemetery over there belongs to First Baptist.
Okay.
And I didn't know that for a long time.
Now, where's First Baptist Church?
Down the road.
Okay.
Yes, just a couple miles from
So
here.
they're just sharing land?
Yes. Not sure what it is, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
So right here, this whole road right here, sometimes I would come down here and we were surveying this cemetery, and I recognized names that I kind of knew. So, but I didn't pay any attention.
Right.
And so one day I was out here and I looked at this tombstone right here.
It's
And I tried
very
to-
interesting.
Yeah, and it took me for a long time to try to figure out who this person was. So my cousin Dina, who lives in Utah, I sent her a picture of it, and she saw it, and I'm not sure what she did to actually figure out who it is, but it is Judah McNeil, born in the early 1800s. She had a son named Cyrus. Mm-hmm. He's the one that actually put this tombstone here.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Do we have her death date?
I have her death. I'm not sure if I have her death date.
Okay.
I don't think I have her death date. But she was still living in 1870, I think, in 1880.
Right.
And he put this tombstone here. But this whole row is his descendants. Mm. And he dedicated that tombstone. It's pretty bad now. It was a little bit clearer before, but it's pretty bad now. But that's who that is. So a lot of people that go to this church are descendants of Judah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but they don't know it.
Right.
And I'm speaking here in a couple of weeks for Black History, and so I'm going to make sure I let them know that that's their relative. So,
what about some of the other older?
So there's a lot
here?
of McLeans out here, which are all in the same family. Mm-hmm. There's some Elliots out here, which is all in the same family. I'm not sure how they got to this side of town, but they ended up here at this church. I think this church was started in 1870, I believe. Okay. I do have the history.
There's a Clegg that's over here.
Yeah, that's a strong name, a somewhat strong name in this area. Mm-hmm. And there is one tombstone, I don't know where it is, that is an Alexander McLean. Okay. That comes from that Judah. So Judah was a McNeil. Her parents were McLeans, and she married a McLean.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Yeah, but her parents were first generation.
Yeah.
First generation McLeans. Mm-hmm. They were enslaved. They were fresh off the ship, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, For you in your research, why does coming to cemeteries and utilizing obituaries, how does that never get old for you?
It never gets old for me. My parents always pick at my mom, rather. She always said, "Where you at? You in the cemetery?" I said, "No, I'm not in the cemetery today, but I will be getting to one soon." However, there's a lot of history here.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the tombstones, and you get names, you get dates. You know, like one of my great-great-grandfather, who was George H. Smith. He was in the 1880 census. He wasn't in the 1900 census, so I assume he died. However, guess what I found? I found his tombstone. And when I found his tombstone, he told me he died in 1890. So that was, you know, some valuable information.
For sure.
I would have never known if I hadn't seen the tombstone.
Right. How big was it? Well, you said that this county was part of another county.
Cumberland.
So it's part of Cumberland County.
Yes, sir.
So that would be pretty large.
Pretty
then.
large, yes.
Okay.
So all of this was Cumberland County. So it's kind of hard when you looking at the census and trying to figure out what part of Cumberland County was this area.
From.
But I think I kind of figured out this was considered Lillington.
Okay.
There's a little place called Norrington, which is right up this road right here. And then where I live was Sommerville.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right, y'all, we're making our way through. We got a couple other places that we're gonna be going to. How many churches are around?
Oh, Lord, let me see. It may be, I think, 80 or 90 that I have documentation for.
Okay. And you spoke at pretty much all of these churches, I'm sure.
No, not all of them, quite a few of them. But most of the churches I have documentation for are the older churches.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like the newer churches, I don't have much information on.
Gotcha.
All right, we're at the Sommerville Presbyterian Church here in Lillington, North Carolina. And the Sommerville Church is always open. The doors are always open. There's a story that happened probably in the 1700s.
1700s.
Yeah, where a homeless man was outside and couldn't get in. It was winter night, and supposedly he died on the steps. So the story is that they keep the church doors open.
Wow.
All day.
And so this is the sanctuary, you all, so you'll be able to see this. The windows are huge and tall. So this church was built in the 1800s.
1700s.
Oh, so, I'm sorry, 1700s. This church was built in the 1700s.
Well, this church was here in the 1700s.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure when this actual church was built.
Right. Maybe some signage or something that's out there that can point to that. But this is the church, and where we're actually going to be going is up there. This is why we're here, to go up top and explain to you all what that is. So you ready to head on up?
Ooh, there's a lot of steps.
Here we go.
Steep.
Wow.
Ooh, Lord. Ooh, so this is actually where the slaves actually sat during church service. And I am 90% sure, or 99% sure, that my great-great-grandfather probably sat here. Based on the church records that was given to me in 1841 or 1840 something, Gabriel McNeil, which is my great-great-grandfather, was baptized here. His mother, Sarah, his sister Letty, and a few other family members. Their names are actually in the records. So I'm sure they sat here. Miss Beatrice Bailey Hill, who I interviewed the other day, her family actually went here as well, the Atkins. So I'm sure they sat here as well.
Wow. This is quite amazing. And I don't think a lot of people know, because a lot of churches in the South still have these, but I'm not quite sure they know, some people know the significance
of it, yeah.
Right? Like people in the community or younger folks, right? They may just think like, it's just a higher up level of seating, but they may not necessarily know that these are enslaved. This is where the enslaved humans had to sit. And those individuals were chaperoning their enslavers. They may have been, drivers of the buggies and all those types of things. Yes, for sure. And so this is the top part of the sanctuary, which is where the enslaved humans sat. And so it's a spiritual feeling that you get being up here, because you know that people that look like you who were unfortunately in bondage, they were sitting right here. So when we talk about enslaved galleries, we're not talking about pictures. We're talking about the actual places where enslaved human beings sat. And here at this church, this is that place. For you, is this the only enslaved gallery that you've ever been in?
That I've ever been in, yes, sir.
Yeah. And to have this in the community here in Harnett, what is that feeling to be able to have that?
To be able to go somewhere and you know that your relatives actually sat there or were there. Because, right now you don't know where some of the plantations were, so you don't know where they actually sat. But when you can go to a church, and you see the name in the record.
Yeah.
So to me, that's important.
Yeah.
I see the name in the record. When I see the name in the record, and I know they actually went here and were baptized here, even before slavery ended. And were here and on the record, and they sat in this balcony. I think that is phenomenal.
All right. So now we're back at your house, and you all there, you talk about obituaries, right? Like, it's extensive. And this isn't even all of them, right? I think you said that you have about 5,000 obituaries?
I have 5,000 obituaries between that, and I have some over there that I just got back from one of my cousins that she alphabetized them for me, so I can just put them in the thing.
Okay, got you.
So here is a database that we put online with the name, first name, whatever name they died. If it's a woman, whatever last name she died as, we put her last name, first name, and then we put the maiden name, date of death, birth, death, and then we put the parents.
Okay.
And we named this after Miss Mamie Davis Walker. Miss Mamie, this is the one I told you I got all those obituaries from. So we named it after her, and we did like a little ceremony for her last year. And I've been collecting them probably for the last 25 years. But it wasn't until the last 10 years that I've gotten most of the obituaries that I've gotten.
Did any family members think that you were weird for doing such, being so closely connected, being so young and then closely connected to death in that type of way?
Well, what's interesting, when I was in college, my classmate, my roommate actually, I would always read the obituary column. And he was trying to be real spiritual. Yeah. And he told me, "You're going to speak death into your life." I said, "Oh, I'm not going to die. I'm going to live." I'm going to live.
So you don't speak that into your life, right?
But, I don't know what it was about me. And I'm always reading obituaries. I always be the first to know when somebody passed away, because guess what? I get an email from just about every funeral home I know that when somebody passed away. So I don't know. It's just odd, but it is what it is. It's information.
There you go.
It's information that's good to know. It's information that's good to pass along. Because I don't know where this obituary collection is going to take me. Right. This man just sent me probably about 1,000 obituaries from Franklin County. Golly. Online. So I've printed some of them. Okay. Got to print the rest of them, put them in a database, and then I'm going to, put them in the notebooks. Okay. So I got obituaries from several counties.
Yeah, I see. We have obviously Harnett.
Harnett is the top.
Pender. Wayne.
And what is it?
Eastern Wake County.
Eastern Wake County, which is Zebulon, Wendell, Knightdale. Duplin County. I have some now from Franklin County. Yep. Southern Wake, which is Fuquay and Apex, Holly Springs. Okay. I just got a whole box of obituaries from Johnson County, so those haven't even been done yet. Okay. So it's got quite a few counties here. And I'm working on some more. Okay. And eventually this will go outside in the Heritage Center. Excellent. Yeah.
Good stuff. So let's sit down. What do we got here? You have a couple of things that I'm seeing here. The family heritage, George A. Todd.
So what we
that's
do
one,
with that?
one thing, and then you have some of your other books here.
So these are all my published books.
Okay.
I have 25 altogether, but these are all the ones. This is my newest one. The McNeil story just came out just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've been working on that for the last maybe 5 years or so. And that's the final edition of that book.
Okay.
So that book is a whole nother story in itself. These books right here are just books I do, like when I go to a Fam Fest event and in a particular town, I probably had like 30 or 40 of those books from that different town.
And that's specific to that town.
To that town.
Okay.
And people would come and look at those books. Some of them I would give them the books once the event is over so they can go home and look at it and fix it and hopefully can create a published book from that.
Yeah.
So that's Zebulon, Wendell, Knightdale. Then those who are back there are Harnett County. I got some more that are packed up in boxes.
Okay. Now some of the oldest obituaries that you have, we were talking about that. What are those?
So I do have an obituary of a young lady. One of the young ladies named Betsy Elizabeth McLean Williams. She was born in 1864. She died in 1973. So they say she was 109 years old. She's from this community. She's actually a relative of mine. I researched her family, and she comes from my fifth great grandparent, Jim and Lucy McLean, these people were from Bun Level, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not often that you have obituaries of individuals that were formerly enslaved, but you do have a couple of them.
I have a couple of them.
Now, does any of them mention that they were formerly enslaved?
No,
in the
I
obituary?
haven't seen that, but based on the years that they were born. But I pulled this. This is from Zebulon. I pulled this because this is probably the oldest one I have for that community. Yeah. And actually, this lady was a member of the church I grew up in.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Because the pastor, I think I had the obituary, that preached the funeral was my former pastor who passed away. And I was like, this is old.
So yeah, because if that pastor was the pastor that preached at your church, so he's met someone who was born in 1867.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And he passed away now, but this was one of his members. And I'm sure, based on the names, that these people, I know who these people were. That were a part of that church, St. John United Holy Church.
Okay, and then you have a picture that's right here.
All right, so this picture, oh Lord, I forgot her name. This is Effie. This is Miss Effie McDougal.
Okay.
She was a slave. She was a slave. She married a Matthews and had a bunch of kids. And somebody gave me this picture. Actually, it was worse than this, so I actually kind of had it done. So it looks really, good now. Okay. But it was worse than that. Then this is my great aunt, Peggy Ray. She was a slave, but very, probably 2 or 3 years. She probably was 2 or 3 years old when she was a slave. Okay. This is Nelson Holder Ritchie. His mother was my aunt Jane McNeil Holder. But we can talk about that story. That's right in that book right there.
Yeah.
So I also came up with some other pictures that I thought you may find interesting.
Yeah, please do.
So this is Africa Harrington.
Okay, so his name was Africa
Harrington.
Okay.
So I got this picture from a young man named Mr. Harrington, who is a Harrington, but he owns, no, he's a Patterson, excuse me. He's a Patterson, and he owns a slave house or a slave barn, or barn rather, that he got from the Harrington family. He got this picture from the man he bought the barn from. And he gave it to me because he asked me if I knew who it was. Right. I said, yes, his mother was my great-great aunt, which was Elizabeth McNeil Harrington. So this is Africa. He was a slave. Yeah. He never, from what we understand, he never left the plantation. Okay.
But to be named Africa says something,
yeah, which is interesting.
Do we know what year he was born?
He was born around he came from Daniel, around 1840s. Okay. This is Jack Murchison, who has the greatest story ever. It is told that he lived to be 128. The jury's still out on that. I date him about 1820. He started a church called Jack's Chapel, which is in Olivia. Now it's called Murchison's Chapel. He was on the plantation of Kenneth McKinney Murchison. We actually had that documentation. and this is in Olivia. And we actually have his tombstone. But on the tombstone they have he was born in 1870 or 17 something, but I'm not sure about that one. This is Alfie Elliott, who was a slave. This would be my great uncle. He's the son of Elisha Elliott and Maggie McSwain. And I'm just now finding out who owned Maggie McSwain. It's been we've been trying to search that name for a while.
Okay.
And I think it was a man named William McSwain. So we figured that out. This is Sanka Swan.
Sanka Swan. Wow.
So I'm not sure what's going on in this picture here, but obviously Sanka Swan was somebody special.
Yeah.
And he was born around 1841, died around 1919. Sanka Swan actually came from Wilmington. And then they were brought up here by an enslaver with the last name Swan. So there's a little township called Swan Station, which is where he was at. He has a very large family that's still out there in what we call Western Harnett County.
Okay, so 1841 to 1919. Any other stories about potentially what it is that he was involved in? Was he farming?
Turpentine.
Turpentine.
Turpentine was, a big thing around here.
Okay, so Sanka Swan. If you're a Swan, you may descend from his brother right here.
This has a very interesting story. This is Miss Ellen Covington Bailey, born 1847, 1935. I just interviewed her granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
Probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, who knew her.
I was about to ask, 1935, she probably knew her.
She was 100. The lady I interviewed was 100.
Okay.
So she knew her, and she told me some very interesting stories about her grandmother and how she got to Harnett County. And
anything in particular that stands out?
Well, one story is that they were actually from Rockingham. Okay. And they were the enslavers, and I've heard this story before, but I just heard it in passing. But I actually heard it from somebody that know the story. And she says that her grandmother, along with a few others, came to Harnett County because the enslavers were having children by the slaves, and I guess their wives were tired and frustrated of it. So they packed all those ladies up and their kids. They brought them to Harnett County, married them off to all of their friends, slaves. And most of them married McNeils. Okay. And that's how they got to Harnett County. And she said her grandmother told her that story. Wow. So she, in her interview, she actually told me that. By
hearing it from a person who actually was part of that.
Yeah, so she's got a very interesting story. And this is the Maggie McSwain, Smith Maggie McSwain line of mine. So this is, I found these people because of DNA. So the interesting thing is, these people lived on the other side of town. However, they are Smiths and McSwains, excuse me. And it looked like I may have matched them on the Smith and the McSwain side. The McSwain side, yeah.
Great research, man.
And this is Martha. So she was born in 1850. Okay. Or around 1850.
Beautiful lady. I love it, man. So I see you also have the identification of how many Rosenwald schools were here.
Yes.
So how many, because we know that North Carolina, of course, had the most Rosenwald schools.
They did.
So about how many?
So right here in Harnett County, we counted 27.
27.
I have pictures of most of them. So this is the Shawtown, part of Shawtown, where we just left.
Yep, the little compound, yeah.
This is the Cedar Grove School, which is in Cedar Grove area off of 421. This is the Coates School. This is Smith Grove School, which is in Averysboro. Johnsonville School, which is up the road. Irwin School, Maple Grove School. So you mentioned this school in your...
when I sent the thing about the
Dunn. But we don't know where this... So I'm assuming this school was somewhere in Dunn.
Yeah.
But we just don't know where.
Yep.
This is still all a part of Shawtown.
Okay. It's interesting just how many different buildings that they had at that school.
Shawtown had a lot.
Wow.
So this is a Mount Pisgah school. This is the church I actually go to, Mount Pisgah Church. This is Norrington School, which is right up the road. And this school, they say, is not too long been knocked down. It's the Beaver Dam School, which is on the other side of Irwin. Okay. This is the Ridgeway School, which is the lunchroom, which is not too far from here. This is the actual Ridgeway School, and this school is still standing.
Okay.
And this is the Bethlehem School, which is up near Kipling.
Nice.
So right here is 2 charts that start with my earliest relatives I can document from North Carolina, and that's Joe and Jeannie McLean. So Joe was born around 1775 in Virginia and died somewhere before 1870 because he was not on the 1870 census. Jeannie was.
Okay.
And his parents were born in Igbo, in the Igbo village in Africa. Jeannie was born in around 1785 because we found her in the 1880 census. So that's how we were able to get her age.
Okay.
Her parents were born also in Igbo in Africa, according to the 1880 census. So in the 1880 census, it states that she was born in Virginia and her parents were born in Africa.
Wow.
You really can't beat that with a stick.
Yeah, no, you can't. You don't find it often.
No.
I think I've seen that maybe like 2 or 3 times on a census record.
So allegedly, some of these kids may not be their kids, but they may be their siblings' kids.
Okay.
But we think that these are pretty much all of her kids because they were always together on some of those wheels.
Okay, the wheels, okay.
And so we've been able to connect these people, not just because of the wheels, but because of DNA.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is that I do know that about Desi is that, the guesstimation thing, like he works with facts, and because it's so easy to just listen to oral history and have it passed down, right? But as you also have heard him say, now it has been said that X, Y, and Z. So you're not claiming anything that we don't know for sure, right? Which is why I can really appreciate genealogists like you that try to make sure that you have the paper trail to back it up.
Correct. So we got documentation of all these children, and we have DNA from all these kids.
I love it.
And basically, the person that's originally owned them was John Sober McLean, and his plantation was somewhere on McDougal Road or off of McDougal Road. We don't know exactly where, but we kind of got an idea where it was. And she had 14 kids. Some of these kids ended up in, or some of the descendants of these kids ended up in places like Alabama, Mississippi. Now, for whatever reason, I'm not sure what went on in Mississippi, but I have a very strong connection to Mississippi, particularly 2 towns, Buckatona and Newton County.
Okay.
There's the Chapmans, a very large family that live there, and I connect to all of them. And then there is the Ramseys. There's a couple of other names that I connect to because of this family right here.
Okay.
So we can found a few wills or a few documents that state that they actually went to Alabama and from Alabama to Mississippi.
Okay.
And then this is Sarah. So this is the first daughter. And the reason I did this chart because this is where I come from. And this is where most of the people that come to our family reunions, this is where they come from. So
Sherd.
that's Sarah and Sherd.
Okay.
Now, interestingly, Sherd have not been found nowhere in a census or nowhere in a document. We only assume his name is Sherd because a lot of their children had Sherd. And they passed those names down from generation to generation. So, and then he had a son named Sherd.
Okay.
So it's 14 of them. We're pretty sure that most of these are her kids, or all of these are her kids, rather. And interestingly, now I'm gonna tell the story. I'm too ashamed to tell it, but I'm gonna tell it. So Sherd had a son named Gabriel, who married Caroline. So that's who I come from. Well, 2 of Caroline's daughters are my great grandparents. Y'all figure that out.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Hey, it happened.
It is what
like my
it
cousin said, what we did, what the folks did back in the day, you went as far as your feet could take you, and that's what it is. So this is amazing. This is to come in, even though it's not plastered on the wall everywhere. It's like you're in a museum, and you're doing such a great job with just preserving this history, as well as another thing you all. Desi does a lot of conferences, and he's teaching people how to research as well as how to preserve history, how to put things in order, et cetera, et cetera. And It helped me tremendously at the OGS conference last year in Charleston.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's something else that he does. And I'm going to leave his information in the description of this, so you'll be able to reach out to him and get some tips on some of the things that he does on a consistent basis. All right, so that was the last stop on this episode with Brother Desi Campbell here in Harnett County, North Carolina. And hopefully you've enjoyed the different elements of this video. We obviously been to various different places, but I want to make sure that you have the information on how to contact this brother. So let people know where to find you.
You can find me at www.africanamericanexperience.org, or you can find me on Facebook, The African American Experience.
Absolutely. So listen, I greatly appreciate all that you've done for me today.
Yes, sir.
You know, taking me here, there, and everywhere, and we definitely have to do this again.
Yes, sir.
All right. Peace and blessings.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.